So what we saw with the COVID-19 is that farming is very important, and what we need first of all is food, because by the past we used to buy maybe computers and whatever we want, but with the COVID we saw that people went back to farmers. They wanted to have short links with farmers to know how the food was produced. And what we also saw is that all the people who want to go to organic or vegans or whatever, during the COVID, they switched to pasta, to meat. So it means also that there are many trends in food system which make a lot of money, but when it comes to hunger, when people die of hunger, they come back to basics. And I think for all around the world, we see that we need food security before thinking about do I have veganism or whatever we want. In France, we haven't seen anything because we could enter the field and do the job as usual. And I would say that there are a lot of people who saw that we were in the field and we could do the job because we had the good transportation for the inputs. If we wanted to put fertilizer or even some fungicides, for example, we could do that even during the COVID, but it was in France. Maybe there are more difficulties in other countries. Yes, as I am an arable farmer, I didn't have any problem to harvest, but I know people who have fruits and vegetables and they have a lot of problems because usually they rely on people coming from Poland or from Romania, for example, and these people couldn't come to France to harvest strawberries, asparagus. So it means these fruits and vegetables stayed in the field. In the future, I think we will have to be better in the transportation and trade if we want to have all the inputs to keep on producing food. But at the moment, it is okay. In terms of protectionism, it's a good idea if you have a good country where you can produce anything. But for example, you live in England or in Germany or in France, you won't be able to produce bananas or avocados and anything. So I wouldn't say that we need protectionism, but what I would say is we need a global view, and a global view in a long-term view. I mean, we know that we need food security, and to have this food security, we will have also to deal with the climate change, as it was said previously. And to me, today, as farmers, we have solutions to fight climate change. I would take, for example, the conservation agriculture, which is a system which was adopted all around the world, and it helps in storing, in the carbon storage in the soil. It helps in avoiding floods and droughts. So I think if we want to have this global view and to think in the long term, we have to set up a real goal for all the farmers and not to look around protectionism, because protectionism may end to a war at the end, because there are some people who won't be able to produce their food because of this global warming. The first technology when we are farmers is the knowledge. I mean, the more knowledge you have and the more agronomy you will be able to put in the field and the more efficient you will be. I agree we can get a lot of big data and computers and everything, but if we don't know how to implement that in the field, if we don't know how the soil works, it won't work, because at the end, we won't be able to produce anything. So the first thing is to know how the soil works in order to grow plants, and then we will put high tech on that. But we won't be able to produce food with high tech if we don't have the low tech, and the low tech to me is the first thing is the knowledge. Big thing would be to stop plowing, for example, and to switch to conservation agriculture, because each time we plow, each time we touch the soil, in fact, we will create erosion, we will lose the soil, and at the end, we have a desert. And this is something to look at the past. If you look at Egypt today, or Lebanon, or Syria, or Iraq, or Iran, it's desert, whereas by the past, they built pyramids in Egypt where it was very green. So each time we lose the soil, we lose the civilization. So if we want to build a strong future for us and even for the next generation, the first thing to do is to build soil and so as to provide food for the future. And to me, this is the big revolution, to stop plowing. For example, I will harvest the wheat in July. Right after, I will see the sorghum, and I will use the sorghum in September to feed the cows. Whereas if I don't do anything during the summer, I will lose one crop and I will have to buy more food to feed the cows. So it means we will be able to produce twice on 1 hectare, which is a very positive thing for the future. And this is a new technology, and it's low tech. It's not high tech. We don't need more computers. We don't need anything else. It works everywhere. It works in Africa. It works in Europe. It works in the USA, in Australia, everywhere. And what we see is that farmers are adopting this conservation agriculture because it's the climate change that that oblige us to change. By the past, I would say that we had 4 seasons. We had spring, summer, autumn, and winter. But today, as we are farmers, we are the first to be victims of the global change. Today, we don't have 4 seasons. We only have 2 seasons. We have the rainy season and the dry season, even in Europe. I don't know how it is in Germany or whatever, but this year in France, it was very dry. And we see that people who are in conservation agriculture are able to produce food where the people who are plowing don't produce anything. So it makes farmers to think about what should I do on my field in order to produce more food in the future. And this is also good for everybody all around the world because by adopting this conservation agriculture, we also deal with the biodiversity. We have more biodiversity in the field. We have clean water. We keep the soil in our field, so we stop erosion and we will store more carbon, which means agriculture can help in the mitigation of the global change, the climate change, because we will store a lot of carbon in the soil. To ensure the food security, we are based on results. I mean, if tomorrow I need to put a fungicide or whatever just because I need to protect the crop and to ensure an edible food at the end, I will allow the farmers to use this fungicide, for example. The same would be with insecticide. And if we look at the environment and the biodiversity, I will come back to conservation agriculture, but we need to preserve the environment, the soil, the water, and the air. And if we don't do that, in the future, we won't be able to produce anything, even if we have the computers and the big data and the genetics and whatever you want. The first thing is the soil. If you look at the basis of humanity and humility, it's called the name humus, and humus means soil at the basics. So we need to look at these natural resources, and it's not. We are in the future. We shouldn't oppose producing food and preserving nature. We can do both of them. Because by the past, we said either we produce food or we will preserve nature. And today we can do both by training people and by giving them knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the less pesticide you will use. For example, I will use fungicide if needed because I had the knowledge to know when and where to use them. For example, I will spray during the night because I know that when it's during the night, we have more moisture in the air, so I will use half the doses compared to someone who is going to spray in the afternoon when it's 30 degrees Celsius outside. So this is knowledge. And by doing that, you will allow me to use the fungicide, but I will use less because I have the knowledge. Right. So the question is not to ban or not to ban, is to give farmers the tools in the toolbox and to let them use them whenever they want, but not to ban.